Join me on a fascinating journey where I show you some of the techniques used in scale area modelling. So that'll do. I've just put a bag around the nose section just to protect it from getting too much overspray in. I won't aim the gun in this area particularly, but it's just to make sure. So there we go. So I think we'll adjourn now to the garage. I'll get the compressor running, we'll dig out the KlassKote, and we'll do some spraying. Well, we're down in the garage, got everything we need, I think. Thought I'd just quickly show you this. This is KlassKote, this is aluminium. The way I tend to open these, because it's got a cut this out seal, and it's not that easy to punch it out, not as easy as you'd think. I've often put a screwdriver against there and thumped it and actually forced the disc into the paint, and then you'll never get it out. So what I've tried this time is I've just tried putting a fine screwdriver against the edge, tapping it until you pull it away from the edge of the seam, and then you can just lever the screwdriver in and pop it out. That seems to be the safest way of doing it. So I've got two options here. I can go with the matte catalyst, or I can go with the gloss catalyst. Now I thought I had gloss and satin, but obviously I do not. I have gloss and matte. Now I seem to have quite a bit of gloss, so I can only assume I did the Oster with gloss. Terrible getting old because you forget what you do or what you've done. So anyway, I'm pretty sure I went with gloss for the Oster, and it's kind of the right sort of finish. It's not high gloss, it's just glossy. I'm tempted to go with matte just to see what it's like, but I think to be safe I'm going to stick to the gloss, and then I'll use the matte for the black area at the front, the anti-glare shield. So I'm going to go with the gloss. That's the lid from the aluminium. That's the gloss, which you can see I've already opened, and see how I mashed the tin trying to get into it. It's always the way. Now don't get your lids muddled up, because if you do, you can end up putting the wrong lid on a tin and you'll wreck the whole tin. So that's gloss cat. That's obviously Al, and this one is matte cat, just in case. So with any luck you're going to get it wrong. So I'm not sure how much to mix here, so I'm going to that's got catalyst on it, so I don't want to use that one. So we'll take a nice clean stirring stick. Yeah, there's solid at the bottom of that silver. So we'll be stirring this for some time, I think. Yes, and in fact I might go and get one of the thicker stirring sticks, because this is possibly a little bit too flimsy. So I'll go and get a thicker stirring stick, give this a good stir, and then we'll look at the other things we've got on the bench here ready for this project. So there we have the silver well and truly mixed. It's very thick, as you can see, and I was contemplating probably a very sensible idea, but because I don't use very much of this paint very often, it can be years before I use it again, and that's why that's so thick. I was thinking of putting this straight into a jar as it is, emptying the tin completely into a jar, then adding the reducer, which is effectively thinner, but it's a very high quality thinner, and I always recommend that you use the KlassKote reducer or thinner with KlassKote paints. For cleaning the gun and everything else afterwards, I use just regular cellulose thinners. That works fine, but obviously I don't like to use the KlassKote for that because it's too expensive. But I was thinking of maybe mixing this and reducing it with a thinner to make it easier to stir and to mix and what have you. And also it meant the filters would work for straining the paint. I've not actually ever found a problem with KlassKote having any impurities in it, so I'm probably going to skip the filter stage, simply because the paint is so thick that I don't think it's going to ever flow through there, and I'll probably lose more valuable paint in the filter than I will actually clean out. So you shouldn't do it, and what I probably should do is mix the quantity that I want in the jar, reduce it to the right viscosity, then put it through the filter before I put it in the gun, and I may do that, but there doesn't seem to be any point in putting the raw paint through the filter. So you've got to, this stuff's silly expensive, but you've got to kind of work out how much you think you're going to need, and I think I'm going to need pretty much a full jar, that size jar, which is, that's 365 grams if it was full of fluid, which is 365 milliliters. So I'm going to put a third in there, and I'm going to put some marks on the side just to help me. So if I'm going to fill it to there, then I want to go to there and there. That should give me my 30, 30, 30. Now you can use measuring cups, and I have done it that way, but I'm just going to go with my increments on the side of the jar. So first of all, I'm going to go with the goopy stuff. I'm going to use another stick to get that off there. That's probably the easiest way. The price of this stuff, you want to get it all in the jar. I know it may seem a bit anal. Anyway, that's gone in there. Now, where's my marks? There's my marks. Let's put some goop in there. Now, this is going to try and go over the lip of the can, which I don't really want. Let's get these out of there. I'm struggling to know what to do with stuff. I'm just going to put it on there for now. Right, so what I want to do is get it flowing into there without getting too much around the edge. And there, that was very lucky. I've got it to my third mark. So let's try and get the rest of this off. Now the reason I'm trying not to get it on the lid is because once you seal the lid, if you've got any paint around the top here, it will glue on so tight that you won't get the flipping lid off, and it is a real pain. Right, so that's that in there. That's the silver. Now I'll wipe around the lid of that when we're finished. Okay, so then we need to go with the catalyst. Let's turn that off. And we're going to go with the catalyst, and again see if I can get a third in there without sending it everywhere. That's not a third. I hate pouring from these tins. Still under. Still a little bit under. There we go. That's a third. I've got a horrible feeling I'm making too much paint here. You can actually put this in the fridge, and if you put it in the freezer, it doesn't go off. Well, not for months. And there we go. So that's 1 to 1 to 1. Okay. Just going to wipe the inside of that jar, because I'm going to put, in fact no, I'm not going to do it that way at all. But that is the silver on there, so I'm not overly worried about it going in there. And I'm just going to start reducing that, or thinning, you know, mixing that together. It's very, very thin. Let's try and get some off the side as well. Yes, as I was saying, you can put this in the freezer. So if you just put the lid on this and put it in the freezer, it will take months to go off. That's a good way of saving your paint. I was doing that for roundels, so I was mixing red, white and blue for roundels and mixing a little jar of it. And I'd only use a thimbleful of each colour, and then you go and mask off again. So I'd just pop the jar in the freezer and it would stay fluid, you know, fluid enough to spray. Well, as fluid as it was, for several months, which is a good way of keeping the paint. I'm still seeing marks down the side where there's the thicker paint is at the bottom. And I think I will feed this through the filter mask into the gun. The other items I've got on the bench, I've got a tack cloth. This is made by Bodyline, and it's a sticky cloth. I don't know what it's covered in, to be honest, but it remains sticky. It doesn't dry out, and you wipe over the surface that you've prepared, and it lifts any dust particles off, and it sticks to the tack cloth. I've used the panel wipe on the whole model already, so that's got rid of any potential chemicals that might be on top of the paint. The main culprit there is oils from your hand from handling the model. It's not really super critical. I don't find it's too big an issue. We're not spraying a car here where you do have to get a really good finish. It's not so bad. Now there's an idea of the viscosity. So 1,000, 2,000. So about 2,000's worth of 1,000, 2,000. About 2,000's worth of drip before it stops on a tongue depressor. I think that's pretty well mixed now. So while we're doing the spraying, the compressor will kick on and kick off. So you might find the soundtrack is suddenly muted. Right, so I think that is as sprayed, as mixed as I'm going to get it. I'm dreading this. I don't know why. I love spraying, but I dread making a mistake, making a mess. But, oh well, it's not life or death, so they say. But this paint is so bloody expensive. So, that's our paint ready to go. I want to put the lids back on those, but we might have to mix more paint, so I'm a bit reluctant to do that just yet. Right, my hands are sticky. Let's stuff paint on them. So, I'm going to whiz over all of the parts with a tack cloth. This is what they're like. It's just sticky. I don't know what is in them, but maybe somebody would like to comment. But you just fold them over and it just tacks off what you need to tack off. So I'll do that and then we'll come back. Okay, we're about ready to start. I'm just putting on my mask and then we'll get going. I probably won't talk much through this because you won't be able to hear me anyway. So here we go. Okay, had to completely dismantle the gun, clean it all out, and but I think we're sorted now. So we'll take two. The pressor's going to come up to temperature again. Yay! Wish I could see how much paint I have there. Well done. It's actually going very well, so let's see how far the paint actually goes. I'll explain what happened later, but basically I hadn't put the lid on the gun properly. That's where it was dripping. Well, there we go. That's all done. What an ordeal that was. But it's done. It's not brilliant, but the surface finish wasn't brilliant. It's an ARTF at the end of the day, so all I've done is revived a model that crashed. So we'll let that all set and dry and harden off. We'll have a look at it tomorrow and see what we've got. Hopefully it'll be all right. Had a lot of trouble with the gun, but once sorted, about 25-30 psi gloss hardener with aluminium and the usual reducer, the KlassKote reducer, 1 part to 1 part to 1 part, and that sprayed beautifully. That 0.5mm gun works very well. You just mustn't put it at, you mustn't go heavy in one spot, because you'll get a very funny silvery glow where all the paint's just pooling, and the metal flake is coming out from within the paint and it's coming to the surface, and it's really not very good. All you can do is let that dry, or let it go a little bit dry, and then go over it again. So I've got a massive gun cleanup to do now, so I don't think you'll want to watch that. Well, as you can see, that lot's all done. Cleaned the gun. That was an epic. What I've done at one point is I put the lid on askew, slightly over, and that's why you might have seen in the video I got a drip, just a drop of paint fell straight on it. I blobbed it off with a piece of kitchen towel, and that sorted that out. You just put 3 or 4 more coats, light coats, over the top of the blob, and you know, you'll get the surface back together again. So you can see I've done everything. I've done the cowl, the cockpit section, the wings. I concentrated on the areas of the wings where I put film on, and just gave a light dusting over the rest of it because it was already silver. The fuselage is also done, as you can see. One of the things I did, which I regret, is I put primer on the rudder and it covered beautifully, but I didn't put primer on the elevators. They were pure Solatex or Oratex. I can't remember what I use now, but I think it's probably Solatex. Anyway, the issue was that it didn't cover quite so nicely. It's good in a way because it makes the elevators look different, i.e. fabric covered and not metal, which the rest of the aircraft is, which is kind of a good thing. You want to differentiate between the fabric surfaces and the metal ones. Anyway, we'll let that dry, and then we'll have a better look at it and see what it's like. Then we'll probably have to assemble it and mask off for the black section for the front, the anti-glare section, and we'll do that, and then we're more or less ready for decals and that sort of stuff. I know I've got the undercarriage to sort out. Don't worry, we'll do that towards the end.